Hello, everybody, and welcome to SkyWatch TV. I'm Joe Artis Horn. Today we conclude what has been a 4-week series on the brand new 6-part, 6-DVD docuseries, Rescue Us, waging war on a malevolent industry that is systematically destroying innocents. And ladies and gentlemen, this series is aimed at taking head on what must be challenged.
Yes.
In terms of exposing the multitude of ways that we are losing an entire generation of children to the most malevolent people on earth. Before we go any further, let me introduce who's here today. He's the host of SkyWatch TV's 5 and 10, Derek Gilbert. She's the survivor of one of the most extreme cases of child abuse in Missouri state history, now a child advocate and featured in the Rescue Us series, Samantha Orr. She's the lead director of the Rescue Us docuseries, Brittany Jackson. She's the visionary and founder of Whispering Ponies Ranch, also featured in the Rescue Us series, Nita Horn. And she's the host of the Simply His Coffee Shop. Please welcome my beautiful wife, Catherine Horn. Derek, in just a moment, we're going to watch an excerpt from the Rescue Us series that featured you, the late Dr. Thomas Horn, and Allie Anderson on the dark, occult underbelly behind so much of the abuse that children in Western civilization in particular are confronted by. Now, this is something that nobody talks about, and most insulated people out there would argue couldn't be happening in places like the United States, right?
Well, as you mentioned earlier, the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Inspector General admitted in August that more than 322,000 children have just gone missing since January of 2021. And we all know what happened in January of 2021 and why this problem suddenly exploded. Now, the fact checkers out there say, well, no, this isn't really true. They're not really missing. One expert said it's not a missing kids problem. It's just a missing paperwork problem. In other words, they're not missing. We just don't know where they are. Excuse me.
Wow.
Investigative journalists at a website called Muckraker actually did some investigative journalism. They got their hands on 8,000 names and last known addresses of unaccompanied children who'd been brought into the country. And again, these 323,000 are just the ones that we know about that were brought into the country and escorted by a private security contractor hired by the Department of Homeland Security specifically for this task. They've made hundreds of millions of dollars over the last few years doing this. And as they chased down these children, they found that they were being delivered to abandoned homes. They were being delivered to homes where 12 different sponsors were accepting children. And again, they're just falling off the grid. Nobody knows where they are. But this is not a new problem. The FBI, just a few years ago, declassified reports of a case that goes back 30 years to Tallahassee, Florida, with connections to Washington, D.C. It's called the Finders case. Viewers can look this up. But the bottom line is this. A group called the Finders with connections to the CIA were found to be trafficking children. And when the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department raided their offices in D.C., they found clear evidence of occult ritual activity. But when they went to investigate, they were told by the United States Department of State, stand down. You do not have authority to investigate this. So people who think that this is not a clear problem that is happening today are misinformed.
Yes, big time.
And of course, I don't know if you recall this, Derek, but you actually did a great job putting a clinic on in the Silent Cry documentary very much about the Finders, which is a part of this special offer, and we're going to make you aware of that in just a minute. So if you want to watch the long version, it's in there. These are very wicked people, and it's time for the body of Christ to fight back right now, push back right now against this darkness. These children that are innocent depend on it. Ladies and gentlemen, watch this.
A whistleblower is expected to issue a stark warning to lawmakers today that the U.S. has become, quote, the middleman in a multi-billion-dollar migrant child trafficking operation at the border.
Today, children will work overnight shifts at slaughterhouses, factories, restaurants to pay their debts to smugglers and traffickers. Today, children will be sold for sex. Today, children will call a hotline to report they are being abused, neglected, and trafficked, and we don't know if they're going to get the help they need. I witnessed firsthand the horrors of child trafficking and exploitation. Stop retaliating against whistleblowers. Stop retaliating against the people who are trying to tell the truth to save the children.
Joe Biden and his administration have really not only enabled but facilitated the largest sex trafficking and human smuggling operation in human history. And it's been going on now, David, for almost 2.5 years. It's about 700% worse right now than it was under Donald Trump in his last year in office.
Unknown to the public at large, familial or bloodline networks dating back to the 1930s through the 40s, involving mystical copulation employed during ritualistic intercourse, was conducted by associates of and likely members of these families for the express purpose of seeding the human race with ancient demonism connected to prophecy in the final days of man. Now, I covered all of that in the book Shadowland and my associated audio investigation, and it means that there's been a decades-long circle of influence binding people like the Maxwell family with Jeffrey Epstein, the Clintons, and demonic sexual activity involving children. And when I say demonic, I mean that in the most literal sense.
Many of the occult magical systems developed throughout history have involved the breaking of taboos, things that are supposed to be absolutely forbidden. For example, one of the best known, at least best known to me because of my research, was the 20th century occultist Aleister Crowley, who described himself as the wickedest man on earth, the Beast 666. His magical system, called Thelema, involved breaking taboos, which included, certain sexual practices that were forbidden in Scripture. I believe that is rooted in the idea that there's some power to be gained from the destruction of innocence.
Both Parsons and Hubbard were disciples of Aleister Crowley, and they practice his teaching called Thelema as a philosophy divined by the maxim, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." That comes from Crowley's Book of the Law, which can be connected to the spirit cooking ceremonies of the Podestas and Abramovich, which was revealed in the WikiLeaks releases, which was channeled by an incorporeal demonic intelligence named Awas. Now, Thelema is a narcissistic ideology that undergirds several esoteric magic societies, like the AA and the Ordo Templo Orientis, that fundamentally oppose God's moral law. So, Satan targets sexuality because procreation is the human capability that comes closest to the divine, the ability to create.
Balenciaga is what they call a luxury brand. Balenciaga is a company that sells $1,100 sneakers and cotton sweatshirts for $1,500 to people who've literally run out of things to buy. So this week, Balenciaga rolled out a new ad campaign on Instagram, and the selling point of the ads was sex with children. One photograph showed a very young girl lying face down on a couch with candles, empty wine glasses, and a dog collar on a coffee table in front of her. Another picture showed the same girl, a toddler, holding a teddy bear dressed in sexual bondage gear, including a leather harness. And then, in case you missed the point, we're for pedophilia at Balenciaga. Another picture made it explicit. That picture showed pages from a Supreme Court opinion that struck down a law designed to fight child pornography. Whoever staged the photo shoot made certain to include a portion of that opinion that used the word sex or sexual 4 times. And of course, that was not an accident. Balenciaga wanted you to notice.
George Gascon in California, he is releasing convicted pedophiles early. California, in fact, just released thousands of convicted pedophiles after spending only a few months in prison, and Gascon let them loose. They were allegedly convicted for a, quote, range of horrific acts, including raping a kid under 14. So, George Gascon is a Democrat. He's supported by George Soros.
In Virginia, this one made headlines because a transgender professor was arguing to students that no, it's not immoral for adults to be sexually attracted to kids. They want to use this term. They want to push this term, these sickos, minor attracted persons.
There's never been a time in American history where pedophilia was considered anything other than the worst thing, the most horrifying crime imaginable. But apparently, it's not unacceptable anymore. Academics have redefined child molesters as minor attracted persons, and the point, of course, is to send the message that actually it's not that big a deal. It's just a different kind of love.
The concept of introducing new orientations, such as the one being currently asserted as minor attracted persons, otherwise known as MAPS, this is a rebranding of pedophilia. And the problem with this is you use this orientation as a way of fostering sympathy for a person who wants to perpetrate this kind of thing on a child. When these people make it a civil rights movement on behalf of the children, and they saturate the setting with sexuality until a child starts to ask questions and express curiosity, these people are already in position to say, "Oh, I'm here to help you." Here's one thing, though, that needs to be clearly stated as distinctly different from other orientations. When a person is looking to be in a relationship with somebody, there's an intellectual relationship, there's a friendship, there are other aspects of this relationship. A person cannot have, as an adult, this type of a connection with a child. A child is not intellectually ready to have the counterpart of a relationship with an adult. They're not socially ready to have these conversations. This is not a meeting of two minds who find each other and fall in love. This is something very, very different, and it's very dark.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know that some of these excerpts are really tough to deal with. I've said that now over the last few weeks as we've done the Rescue Us television series here at SkyWatch TV. But I also want you to take heart because God is in this hurricane, and He is also emboldening those who are willing to step up for these children and say, "Yes, God, I will give you my yes, and I will stand in the gap for these children."
Yes.
And He is changing lives. And of course, I can't think of a more effective surrogate for who I'm describing than the late Dr. Thomas Horn, my father, who is also all throughout the Rescue Us series. We covered basically his life story and the ministry that he and my mother, who's joined us here today, Nita Horn, started and continues today at Whispering Ponies Ranch. In a moment, we're going to share an excerpt from the series that shows the late Dr. Thomas Horn, your husband, of course, my father, talking about the important work that takes place at Whispering Ponies Ranch. You know, he lived his life as a servant to the very kinds of children featured all throughout the Rescue Us series that we've been talking about. And he did much of that ministerial work at Whispering Ponies Ranch. Now, sadly, he passed away in mid-production of the Rescue Us series, and he wasn't able to see the final series. So I want to ask you, as the person closest to him on this planet, do you think he would have been pleased with how the series turned out?
Absolutely. I think that he would be very thrilled. It's brilliantly written, beautifully edited, knit together in love, standing firm in the fight. Many times as we were talking about these projects, he would choke up at the children that would come to the ranch. And some of those things that we've shared in different episodes, and some of them we've just talked about privately. But no, he was definitely a huge child advocate himself and has done a wonderful job birthing that into the family. And Brittany and Dakota, her husband, great support in getting it finished with all of the unimaginable, bizarre struggles that we've had. But yes, I already can tell you he is very proud of this project. And I can speak for him. I'm an authority on that one. Would love it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we've been talking about over the last few weeks, there are beautiful moments of triumph, victory, and this series does more than just illuminate the dark aspects of what's happening with these children. It arms the viewer with a spiritual challenge to rise up and do something for the least of these, our most precious gift from God the Father above, our children, to do something.
Yeah.
More than empathy, more than placate, more than lip service, do something. Here is just a sample of one of the most beautiful parts, in my view, of the Rescue Us series. Watch this.
If people look at Whispering Ponies Ranch, maybe they don't have any experience with what we're talking about at all. Everything at Whispering Ponies Ranch is carefully thought through, and behind it has an objective, a goal. And that is to heal these children, to bring them out of trauma back to a place where they can trust again. Because, for instance, kids arrive. We had them this year at camp where they arrive, but it's not until they get to that safe place called Whispering Ponies Ranch that they start opening up, and now they're telling us these terrible things that are happening to them at home, in the homes they're living in now. So these kids are in shock. They live in a state of fear, and one thing they've learned is not to trust, adults especially. If they tell you, "I love you," it's because they want something from you. And some of it is much worse than that, locked in cages, beat with bicycle chains. These kids have been traumatized. Our goal at the Whispering Ponies Ranch, for instance, in using horses, and even the counselors see, I hate the term magic, but they see the magic of this over and over again, where the kids get there day one, they're completely traumatized, they don't trust anybody, they don't want to open up and talk to anybody, but they will talk to a horse. And it happens over and over and over. It's why we use these little tiny miniature horses, because they're not intimidating. We also have miniature other kinds of animals now too, miniature zebu, cow. And you'll see the kids whispering into their ears and talking to them. And these little animals are so loving, and they're nuzzling them. You'll give them what we call pony kisses. And it starts there. And little by little, though, now they start believing that at Whispering Ponies Ranch, this is a special place. They can open up here. They can talk without fear of reprisal. If you tell anybody, "I'm going to kill you," they don't hear any, they hear all the opposite of that. God loves you. Jesus loves you. We love you. And by the way, Royal Family, it's a genius program in the sense that they have junior counselors that come across as big brother, big sister. They have others that come across as uncles and aunts. They have grandma and grandpa, the older couples that stay in the VIP lodge. And so we create a sense of family, and that's why it's called Royal Family Kids Camps. We create for them what they don't have. They've been removed from their homes because of abuse. Some of them have been saved from sex trafficking. So very traumatized children, but everything there. Why a zip line? You would see what is spectacular about using a zip line as a tool, where a child comes up, they lack confidence, they've been told all their life, "You can't do anything, you're stupid," all these terrible negative things, so they lack confidence in themselves. But when they get up on the crow's nest on the zip line, and they're sitting there, and Joe will say to them, "We're in no hurry, nobody's going to force you to go off of this zip line. You don't even have to do it if you don't want to. But it's here for you, and I believe in you." And they'll start building up their confidence. And pretty soon the kid that was afraid of everything will go off that zip line, zip to the bottom, and then guess what happens? Now they want to go down it over and over and over, but they feel like a champion. They've done something that their other world has told them they can't do. You don't amount to anything, you have no talent. Now their confidence starts to grow. And that's the goal by the end of every camp, is to sow seeds into these children's lives. And by the way, that's just the start of the mentoring. Some of these kids come back to that camp year after year. Some of them go until they graduate out. Constantly we are mentoring them, and then the churches are staying in contact with their homes. And this year we started what's called Teen Reach, because when the kids age out of Royal Family, which is 7 to 11 years of age, now they go into the Teen Reach program, where the mentoring continues all the way up through 18 years of age. We use other kinds of things with these kids to teach them team building and confidence. I could go on and on, but every single thing you see, the climbing wall, everything that is there is meant to be used as a tool for helping kids gain confidence and be reunited with a very healthy spiritual and mental environment from which then they can grow. And by the way, how well does it work? Half the counselors that come to our camps started out as an abused child in a Royal Family Kids camp and grew up and so believed in what we do that now they're coming back as the adult counselors.
In 1969, philosopher Lauren Isley wrote a story called The Star Thrower. In it, An old man is sitting at the beach when he sees in the distance a young boy repeatedly stooping down and throwing something into the ocean. When the boy drew closer, the man asked him what he was doing. And the child explained that when the tide washes starfish far up onto the shore, they're unable to return to the waters on their own. And the hot sun dries them out and kills them. So when he sees a starfish left to die on the sand, he bends over and he rescues it. The older man looked out over the beach, noting that there were thousands and thousands of starfish as far as the eye could see. So he asked the boy why he even bothered. Would it really even make any difference? The boy stooped down once more, tossed a starfish back into the water, and said, "It meant the world to that one." James 1:27 says, "Pure and undefiled religion before God and the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their trouble and to keep oneself unspotted from the world." Please, I implore you, do not go back to sleep on this issue. Do not go back to the daily business of your life and forget these children. If you will only listen, you will hear the unanswered cries of the helpless begging you to intervene. They are all around you, each and every day. For the person who will truly avail themselves to be a part of the solution, an orchestra of voices calls to you from everywhere within this society. They are in your neighborhood, your church, your community, your schools, even in your social circles, calling to you. To you are the cries of those who are unable to protect themselves, those who have no advocate, no defender, no champion. Their constant pleas call out for justice, for safety, for hope. The choice to answer remains yours. Where will you stand on this issue? God will use anyone who's willing to simply give him a yes. If you'll only open your ears and your heart and listen, you will hear a resounding army of voices screaming the words, "Rescue us." Well, ladies and gentlemen, we need the grassroots support of our SkyWatch TV family to help us get the Rescue Us series out to as many people as we possibly can. This information is being suppressed, deleted, deplatformed, taken down, and is way too sobering for most network television outlets. We need you to get involved. We need you to join us in the efforts to get this series in front of your friends, your pastors, people of influence in government, your communities, anybody and everybody. Help us share this series not only to illuminate the many, many ways that we're losing an entire generation of children to intolerable darkness, but also to assist in the raising of an army of God's people willing to stand in the gap for them. The Rescue Us series shows the viewer what can be done by absolutely anybody willing to say, "Yes, Lord, I will answer the call. I will intervene for those who have no voice and for those who desperately need help." And that's why right now we're asking you to stand with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we're proud to introduce the Rescue Us special offer. For your donation of only $49.99, you'll not only receive a copy of the entire 6-DVD docuseries Rescue Us that uncovers the massive crisis destroying an entire generation of youth, all while challenging each one of us to rise up for our nation's most vulnerable and break the cycle of abuse. But you'll also receive the brand new documentary, Rescued, Samantha's Story, where Samantha Orr personally takes you through her nightmarish childhood of unthinkable trauma and abuse to her total restoration in the arms of Jesus Christ. But friends, that's not all. Right now, while supplies last, we're also including in this special opportunity the 4-hour audio series on disc, The Hidden Occultism of Epstein's Orgy Island by the late Dr. Thomas Horn. Silent Cry, The Darker Side of Trafficking, featuring Yaku Bouillons, Ilanka Deaton, Dr. Thomas Horn, and others, and the major motion picture movie Camp on DVD that showcases what God can do in the life of a child desperate in need of rescuing through ministries like Royal Family Kids and is inspired by true events. Sold separately, these items hold a retail value of $200. Yours now for your donation of only $49.99, which includes free shipping to all U.S. orders. But ladies and gentlemen, we are so committed to this message reaching as many viewers as is humanly possible that we want to equip you, our grassroots army of SkyWatch TV friends and family members, with an opportunity to partner with us like never before. Join us in spreading this invaluable message through the Rescue Us Partner Pack, where you'll receive 5 copies of each of the items we just mentioned for your donation of only $165. That's right, when you order the special Rescue Us Partner Pack, you'll receive 5 copies of the entire 6-DVD docuseries Rescue Us, 5 copies of Rescued, Samantha's Story, 5 copies of The Hidden Occultism of Epstein's Orgy Island, 5 copies of Silent Cry, The Darker Side of Trafficking, and 5 copies of the major motion picture movie Camp on DVD. This massive collection of documentaries, audio series, and movies holds a retail value of $1,000. Yours now for your donation of only $165. With 5 complete copies of everything in the collection, that allows you to keep 1 for you and your family and 4 entire sets to share with people that you believe will also be inspired to stand up in defense of God's greatest gift to us, our children. Remember, your donation helps SkyWatch TV continue to get this important message to the 4 corners of the world. You can also stream the entire Rescue Us series and or Samantha's Story right now at skywatchtvstore.com/stream. So act quickly. You can scan the QR code on your screen using the camera app on your phone for instant access to this special opportunity. Visit us at skywatchtvstore.com or call 1-844-750-4985 and ask for the Rescue Us special offer or the Rescue Us Partner Pack right now. It's not a special opportunity you're going to want to miss. Ladies and gentlemen, partner with us. Get your copy or copies of the Rescue Us series. Give them to everybody that you think might benefit from becoming a child advocate. Everybody that you think might be persuaded by this series to become a child advocate. Give God your yes and see what He does with it for the sake of these, the least of us. These that have no voice and need your intervention so much. For everybody here in studio, for everybody on panel, thank you once again for joining me. I'm Joe Artis Horn. Keep your eyes on the prize, which is Jesus Christ. We'll be back.